Voter intimidation is any behavior that intimidates voters. Really, it could be sort of the kinds of things we saw typically a long time ago, which is sort of more violent and in-your-face kinds of intimidation, but it could also include using words or suggestions to make a voter feel uncomfortable in the process of voting or trying to vote. Voter intimidation has a long history in the United States. It's a history that sadly begins after the ratification of the 15th Amendment during Reconstruction, when black men were first given the right to vote, and the Klan and other domestic terrorists basically engaged in campaigns of violence and harassment to scare black folks away from voting. Sadly, when the Reconstruction era ended, voter intimidation did not.
And voters of color are often facing the brunt of it. Voter intimidation can take many forms. It can look like aggressively questioning someone's citizenship, their ability to speak English, or even insinuating that there are criminal penalties to a voter who is eligible to voting.
And while I think that Section 11B of the Voting Rights Act goes a long way to protect against intimidation, there are some ways where there's more to be done. One problem we face right now is that a lot of the laws that we have currently on voter intimidation focus on prospective relief, injunctive relief, getting a court to stop intimidation from happening moving forward. But sometimes it's really hard to get into a court and get that kind of relief before behavior happens. It can be hard to prove what's going to happen in the future. It's also important that folks have a remedy after the fact. You know, the kind of thing we usually think of when going to court, which is you sue for damages and you ask for the people who wronged you to pay up for what they did. That kind of remedy acts as a deterrent. Another thing is that the federal courts are no longer playing the role that they played historically in protecting voters against race discrimination and other forms of vote suppression and intimidation. Increasingly, I think voters and voter advocates are looking to state courts to help play that role.
State Voting Rights Acts, or VRAs, can help address these issues. State VRAs can include strong protections against voter intimidation. For instance, under the Virginia VRA, people are allowed to get court orders to stop the spread of disinformation, intimidation, and threats.
The combination of AI and social media means that would-be vote deceivers now have the ability to both create content that is believable and disseminate it widely, rapidly, and make it appear that it's coming from the trusted source. State Voting Rights Acts can be written in a way that takes into account the way that deception happens in the 21st century. But also, we have seen just a shameful amount of harassment and intimidation of election officials in the last few years. A recent Brennan Center survey of election officials showed that more than 1 out of 3 local election officials has experienced intimidation, threats, harassment, or abuse.
State VRAs can include strong protections to protect election officials from facing harassment or other types of interference with them just trying to do their duty and ensure everyone can vote.
The vast majority of voters in this country are going to go and vote without a hitch. They're not going to face intimidation. They're not going to face violence. So when we're talking about voter intimidation, we are talking about a small subset of experiences that voters have in this country. That doesn't make it less important that we regulate to protect against them.
State Voting Rights Acts can help ensure that voters have a safe, easy access to the ballot box, which every American deserves. Thanks for watching LDF and CAP's State Voting Rights Act Video Explainer Series. This video looked into the concept of voter intimidation, and our experts explained how state voting rights acts can address these harmful policies.
To learn more about the essential components of state voting rights acts and how they can help us build an inclusive, multiracial democracy, check out our websites and follow along with this Video Explainer Series.